for example, Too Simple and what has happened with the market in Too Simple and Embark as well. Like, what is the impact of that on public trust in your mind?
The impact of public trust. That's a good question. I don't think the public follows the industry enough to understand the aspects of public trust.
Oh man, that's an ego blow.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's true.
It's a positive thing too, right?
No, it's definitely a positive thing for me. But you know how you feel like your thing is the thing that it's everybody's thing. And like, here's Grayson with some wisdom. He's like, yeah, your thing.
You're nothing.
You're nothing.
Welcome back to Trucking Forward, where we're continuing part 2 of our episode with Grayson Brulte. I want to make sure I said that right. Grayson, did I get it?
Yep. Yeah, you did great.
So really jumping into a little bit more on that future perspective of autonomy and kind of where we're going. I think in the last episode, Grayson had some really amazing insight on some of the messaging, how we're actually impacting ourselves. And I think all of my questions now are, what do we do going forward? Right? How do we actually do that? What are the leading indicators we should be striving for as an industry to start building those things for the public at large to be giving the right trends?
We have to roll up our sleeves, and we have to realize that there's two markets that we have to market towards. There's the Wall Street investor market, and then there's the public, and we can't lose both sides. And the Wall Street investor public, as an industry, we have to make the economic argument around how autonomy will become a very big business, how licensing this technology will become a very big business, and that is an investable business. And MVP is an investable business, and we have to make that economic argument to Wall Street that this is what we're doing. And on the other side, we have to roll our sleeves up and engage the public in meaningful ways. Perhaps it's taking the truck to a county fair, for example, and allowing individuals to do it. Or I have an idea, bring it to schools. Let the kids play the honk game. Honk, honk. They can play the honk game, and you can start to expose children to this technology. And then they will go home and talk to their parents. Perhaps there's a nationwide back to school with Torc Day. And you start going from state to state and meeting with different various schools and school districts and pulling this technology, because we have to unlock the public's imagination. Look at what happened with ChatGPT. It unlocked the public's imagination for AI. Everybody here, AI can reduce server costs. AI can do this. AI can do medicine. And then we'll go back and remember Watson. Dr. Watson can fix your health records. But IBM didn't really deliver on that. They didn't capture the public's imagination. ChatGPT did. Well, how do we capture the public's imagination? We have to go to the public and interact with them in the local communities and really start to spread it. Is it cost intensive? Yes, but it's going to have a long-term meaningful impact.
So, Grayson, I guess on this road, we've talked about like what do we need to do from a messaging perspective. I really like the way you're approaching it. Of we need to capture the public's imagination, right? And we need to then educate the public on really what the benefits are, and then they can use their imagination to really unlock that next thing. The ChatGPT is, I think, a fantastic. I did not expect that to blow up kind of the way it did, and just kind of overnight. Like, everybody knows about ChatGPT. Everybody's played with ChatGPT. They've asked questions. They've watched it do silly things. They've watched it do, frankly, amazing things. Most people who are doing that don't understand how it works, but they don't really need to understand how it works, because now they can start using it in a kind of plug and play. It's now a puzzle piece in their story. I'm curious, what do you predict for autonomy? What does the next year look like? What does the next 2 years look like? The next 3 years look like, as we're kind of expanding that out and trying to capture the public's imagination and really just going forward?
I'm going to go back to the ChatGPT and then we'll go forward. If you look at ChatGPT, then you have Google Bard. I think Google Bard's a far superior product. And then you have Adobe, which has put generative AI in there. And I'm a big Photoshop person. And look at the amount of time it saved. Adobe captured my imagination from the amount of time that I'm able to save. So I have to add a filler into a background. Just click, boom. and it does it for me. So it's creating a meaningful tool. And we look to capture that public's imagination. I live in Florida. There's Publix at a grocery store. Other parts of the country, there's Kroger's everywhere. I grew up in Connecticut, and I'm a big fan of Stu Leonard's. It's the Disneyland of grocery stores. It's fantastic. What if Torc partnered, say, with Disney, partnered with Kroger, partnered with Stu Leonard's, partnered with Publix, and did say 3-4 loads, or perhaps, or maybe a whole store load, whatever that looks like, and say today at the grocery store, it's Autonomous Day. We're going to demonstrate to you with our wallets what the economic impact of autonomy will be. Every good in this store today was brought to you on an autonomous truck, and it saved you X%. This is the future, and this is where we're going. That's going to have a major, major impact on public trust because they can feel it in their wallets. Consumers are getting crushed with inflation. They overspent. This is going to be the scary part. The consumer overspent on European vacations. The average flight from the United States and coach to Europe this summer was $1,342 coach round trip. Mm-hmm. The average hotel room in Paris in the last 3 years is up 38% to $822 US. You have the British pound, which is hovering around $1.30. You have the euro hovering around $1.10. So not my economist friends will get mad at this, but I'll say basically you're paying a tax to go to that country. 30% tax to go to the United Kingdom, 10% tax to go to the European Union.
Man, you really like to take off your economist friends.
You have to do it every once in a while. And if you find me on a milk cart, then you know what I did. I was on your podcast and take a few people off. And so you look at that, and then these credit card bills are going to start coming due. Well, now the average credit card interest rate is 20.91%, the highest in 15 years. They're going to struggle to pay. And so why not take advantage of the situation from an industry standpoint? Take a negative and make it a positive. Mm-hmm. And we start doing that with grocery stores around the country. Now we're getting the local press. Now we're getting the national press. Yes, some people might call it a stunt. You want to call it a stunt? I call it reality. We're demonstrating with our walls that autonomy will save you money. That's something that I think is the whole industry we should do, especially from the autonomous trucking logistics side. From the market side, consolidation. My personal opinion, Waymo gets a new de facto CEO September 1st when Ruth Port becomes Chief Investment Officer and President of Alphabet. It is in the public filing, and I repeat, it's in the public filing. She is now going to oversee all the spending for other bets. Well, Waymo enters into other bets, and Ms. Port is financially conscious. They're getting pressure from TCI Fund Management. So look for pretty significant costs and streamlining of Waymo's business. They shut down their trucking business. It's shut down. You go on their website, it doesn't exist. They removed every aspect of it. And then some of the other companies in autonomy are not going to be around in 24 months. And the ones that are still last are going to find a parent, as similar to your parent with Daimler, and you're going to see consolidation. And once that consolidation happens, then you're going to see massive institutional money flow in, and then it becomes an arms race.
So you mentioned the shutdown of Waymo Via, and I'm kind of curious, like, so long-term consolidation, and long-term here being a year plus, 2 years plus, consolidation, ultimately resulting in institutional funding for actually bringing all of these products across the finish line and realizing them in the broader market. But in the short term, what is the impact of the shutdowns and the different things that have happened in the industry? So as you said, Waymo Via going down, for example, Too Simple, and what has happened with the market in Too Simple and Embark as well. Like, what is the impact of that on public trust in your mind?
The impact of public trust, that's a good question. I don't think the public follows the industry enough to understand the aspects of public trust.
Right. Oh man, that's Waymo, a go blow.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's true.
It's a positive thing too, right?
It's definitely a positive thing for me. But you know how you feel like your thing is the thing that it's everybody's thing. And like, here's Grayson with some wisdom. He's like, yeah, your thing.
You're nothing.
You're nothing.
Because we haven't gotten the grocery stores. If Torc decided to go, let's call it National Grocery Store Day with Torc, yeah, now it matters. Now it matters. business matters. I know I said it earlier about Mr. Von Schmidt, but if you look at Mr. Von Schmidt wants to run it as a business. And that is a clear defining factor of the way that Mr. Von Schmidt is running Torc and your strategic relationship with your parent Daimler Truck. Waymo, in my opinion, they were never all in on trucking. To me, if you look at the filings, you look at the public comments, it was an afterthought. They were never all in. When you look at it and you look at the rollout. And the other aspect, and I debate this a lot with my technical friends, and I love your opinion, is there such thing as a universal driver? Torc, you're purely focused on trucks. You're focused on how do we get up Albuquerque into Taos. That's a good climbing that. How do we deal with winds? Mm-hmm. How do we deal with Andrew on your team? Show me the Burger King video where the person decided to dress up like a Burger King person and play Hopper on the road and Albuquerque. You're focused on that. You're not trying to do everything for everybody. Saying we're going to build the world's best truck driver. We're not going to build the world's best driver. I don't believe that in this way the technology is today that there is such thing as a universal driver. First thing that you do when you go get a CDL, they try and reteach you everything that you learn because it's all wrong when you come to driving a truck. You have air brakes, turning radiuses, dealing with different winds, torque. There's all these different aspects that go into that. So it raises the question, was Waymo cost cutting? Yes. Was Waymo really all in on trucking? In my opinion, no. But how much of this had to do with the fact that there's no such thing as a universal driver? Outside of Waymo, there's only one company that is publicly stating that they want to build a universal driver, and that's Aurora. But when you read Aurora's public filings on their S3, where they raised the $825 million, they talked about how they're building the Aurora driver to go logistics, to go to car, to go to truck. But when you read their investor presentation, which is also a public document, there's really hardly any mentions of a car. It's all about the truck. If you look at the LinkedIn post, it's all about the truck. Is that a signal from Aurora as well that the universal driver is a myth or the technology is not ready? So that's an aspect that we have to overcome as we look for the future of the industry. You asked about Too Simple. Unfortunately, I just think it was a unmitigated disaster that could have been avoided if it wasn't for the way that multiple situations were managed. Embark had no patents. I don't feel that Embark had the right path to commercial. They didn't have the patents. They didn't have the strength. You look at it from my economic Wall Street hat. Patents are an asset. You can bank a patent on your balance sheet. You can get a loan from a patent. Mm-hmm. Yes, did Sam Abadi do a really good job as chief commercial officer? Yes, Sam did his best. Sam did a phenomenal job. But it comes down to that company was led by an engineer. It wasn't led by a business person. Waymo, in my opinion, for trucking, didn't have the right business person. Waymo's critical mistake for trucking didn't hire a Lee White, didn't hire a James Reed, didn't hire a Craig Harper, didn't hire a traditional trucking person to go in there and saying, we need to build a trucking company. We need to hire a trucking person. Too Simple hired trucking people. They hired Lee White and several trucking individuals. They did well until their self-inflicted wounds. There's no other way to describe it. Embark tried with their Knight-Swift deal. You're hiring professional truckers. You have your advisory council. You're getting input from Riot, and you're taking in this all there. In order to succeed, the industry has to listen. Industry has to learn. It cannot be this, we go at it alone. We know everything better than everybody. No, we don't know anything. We know engineering. We know AI. We know problem solving. Do we know the best time to pick up a load necessarily? Do we know the best way to interact on a road? No, you learn that from drivers. You learn that from seasoned veterans. That's what we have to do. We have to have business leadership at the top that understands strategy and economics, backed by solid, really great engineers, backed by professional truck drivers and individuals in the trucking industry. And then what you need on the backside of that is really important policy people. And if you put all those ingredients together, backed by a financial parent, which you have, you're going to win. And you're going to do really, really well.
Well, it just made me feel awesome.
Yeah, I was just like, I feel like I just got a pep talk. Like, thanks, Grayson.
You should think about some internal motivations. Like,
yeah, like
we need to pull you into bigger audiences.
Man, how do you follow that up with a question?
What should we not do?
Oh, I like that.
What should you not do from an industry standpoint or from a Torc standpoint?
Well, selfishly Torc, but really as an industry, like what are the things that we need to be avoiding as an industry that will prohibit us from getting there?
Don't be stupid. Seriously, just don't be stupid and don't be cocky. We are on the cusp of greatness. Let's not mess it up. Let's not rush something. We've learned lessons from the past where individuals would run out there and give you a timeline. They'd run out there, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we have the best this, we have the best that. Don't do that. Stay humble. That is one of Torc's greatest successes, and Andrew has talked a lot about this. Stay humble. Just be the little truck that could. If you asked me three years ago, we're sitting in a room together, that you would be one of the last three standing, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. There's no way. But you were the little engine that could. There's a great children's book for that, but you were the little engine that could because you stayed humble. Kodiak's staying humble, and they're building it. They're doing what you, Torc, very publicly did in your early days, building up a defense business. It's brilliant. Stay humble and focus on building a business. That's the best advice I can give to this industry. Stay humble, focus on building a business. Don't sit there and see. I'll give you another kid's analogy because it's on my mind. Scrooge McDuck with a safe full of gold at the end of the thing, that you're going to jump off the diving board and you're going to see Huey, Dewey, and Louie waiting there for you to have a good old time and swim in the gold. You're not there yet. We're in the top of the first inning of a 9-inning baseball game. It's a marathon. Be prepared to run that marathon.
But run it fast. That's always been the message.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, but
the trick
there's still a speed at how
we have a tendency.
You're running the marathon.
Yeah, the marathon's average speeds are pretty high.
Don't run too fast.
No, go for it.
Yeah, but don't go too fast, or you don't actually make it to the finish line.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a balancing act. So I guess the last question I have for you, what's next for Grayson? Like, what's your next thing in your mind?
To help usher in the autonomy economy and build a fund to prove to Wall Street that this is going to be the most transformable technology in our lifetimes, and this technology is investable. So I'm going to build a fund, and I'm going to invest heavily in this space and bankroll it. That's what's next.
That's awesome. I think from my perspective, because I feel like we're technology advocates. I'm at least a technology advocate.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a business advocate for the industry like that. That's just I think a mental space that I at least don't naturally have. And it's fascinating.
Yeah. It's I'm not in charge, but I'm not in charge because I'm a former engineer. So like, I feel like
still shucking off bad habits.
Yeah. I mean, Grayson made it pretty clear before, like you shouldn't put the former engineers in charge. Right, you should have a business person in charge. So I feel like I'm also a technology advocate who dabbles in like expressing the business aspects of it, but really having a very strong business advocates out there. And we had Walter on here a few episodes ago, and having industry advocates who really can see the impact that it has on the economy, on the public, on the future, and they can really advocate for those aspects, I think is incredibly important.
So I probably have a couple questions, but I think still in the business aspect, I think, Grayson, you represent one perspective, and you're obviously very engaged in this space. What are the counter perspectives? Like where are your strongest detractors coming from? Like what are their statements, especially around this space?
Unions. Individuals who think it's funny to vandalize property that doesn't belong to them by putting cones on vehicles. They think it's funny. It's not funny to put a cone on a vehicle and disable something that somebody worked very hard to build a business because you have an interest of supporting public transportation over the future, which is going to have a positive economic impact on the economy of where you live. It's morally wrong. It's reprehensible, and it's being funded by unions. Unions are the biggest issue that's currently facing this industry, and the more hostile acts they get is only going to turn the public against them. And it's sad. The putting cones on vehicles, it doesn't work. It's childish. It's silly. Are we playing ding dong ditch? Hey, I'm going to ring your doorbell and you're not going to see me. Ha 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 ha. Okay, but you're vandalizing you're vandalizing property. That property is Cruise. People worked very hard, and now you're causing economic damage because somebody has to go out there, and perhaps somebody can't get to their job on time, or they end up missing something because you thought it was funny to disable a car. Shame on you. It's wrong. You talk this whole big game. Oh, we're doing this to help society. We're doing this to be the good person. You're the bad person. You're not doing this to this. You're doing this to move your own self-interest forward. It's sad. They are detracting against a technology that is going to have a positive economic impact on them. Okay, you go to the store. It's going to be cheaper. You're in San Francisco. We've all seen public videos of people walking into Walgreens and stealing stuff. Well, guess what happens? Inflation kicks and the price of goods comes up. Well, what if I can help offset that inflation by delivering those goods in an autonomous vehicle? That saves you money. That allows you to continue to live your lifestyle. Those are the biggest detractors, and they're not willing to come to the table and engage in an honest conversation, and they're doing the tactics. And we saw, unfortunately, what happened with Yellow, and we saw the antics that happened around UPS with the labor deal that still hasn't been ratified yet. It's sad. There's no other way to describe it to you but sad.
I think like what I like about your message, though, if I were to dig into it, really your advocacy for the industry solves that problem naturally, right? It's actually build a public need, a public what do you call it? Excite the imagination of the public, really get them engaged in the possibilities. And that kind of seems to be a naturally solving problem if we essentially do it right.
We have to do it right, and there was a CEO who was formerly of a very large autonomous vehicle company. I had a long talk with him years ago, and he's no longer in his role. And this is when this company first expanded to the Phoenix metro region area. It doesn't take 2 and 2 to put that together. It's actually pretty easy. And I had this long conversation with him, and I said, "You're missing the picture. You're operating in Chandler, Arizona. You're operating the Chrysler Pacifica minivans, and I really gave it away now. But you're missing the picture. You're missing the picture. Individuals do not fly to Chandler, to Phoenix, Arizona, Sky Harbor Airport, to go for a ride in a minivan. They don't do it because autonomous. You don't have a driver. They don't do it. What do they fly to Phoenix, Scottsdale for? To play golf, to go to the spa, to go hike Camelback Mountain. They go to Phoenix and Scottsdale for the experience. You're missing the picture. Connect the airport to the hotels and make the autonomous vehicle part of that experience. That's what I said to Waymo back then. Make it part of that experience. What if okay, so Adam, Tim, we decide, hey, let's go for a guys' weekend in Scottsdale, and let's go play True North and some various other golf courses. Mm-hmm. We land at Phoenix, Sky Harbor. We get picked up. Oh, wow, you've got your golf sticks. I got my golf sticks. How are we going to do this? Oh, well, we go on the app, and the Waymo app, Waymo One app. Oh, yeah, golf experience. Okay, so a bespoke Waymo vehicle comes that was built for the golf clubs, takes us there, and then perhaps on our way there, it says, we put our information, Adam, Tim, Grace. Oh, we know you're playing True North. You might want to look at Hole 12 because of the dog leg, or you might want to do this. And we're getting this whole interactive experience. Then I'm going to go back to my Walt Disney analogy. What if we plussed it? And this is where Apple's going. And this is going to be really brilliant. Everybody looks at the Vision OS, the headset. Oh, they're going to compete with Meta, what Mark's vision is for the metaverse. No, it's wrong. That's all wrong. The Vision OS in the headset, it's just the first step to where Apple's going with the Apple Car. Apple's going to augment the glass. So when we're on our way to the golf course and we're in the Waymo vehicle or in the Apple vehicle, we're going to see a whole interactive, augmented reality 3D version of that golf course that we're going to play. We're going to be able to study our shots on the way there. That creates a meaningful impact. Now I'm flying to Scottsdale. Now I'm flying to Phoenix. I want that experience. And autonomy enhances that experience. And Walt Disney says it pluses it. It becomes part of that. Now you've captured the public's imagination. Oh, how is golf? Oh, you have no idea. I got to ride in this vehicle, and it augmented this and helped me create these different shots, and I can zoom in on that. That's where we're going. That's how we capture public's imagination. Perhaps in the future, we talked about surfing offline earlier. You're in Santa Cruz, or you're in Northern California, or you're on the Big Island of Hawaii. Hey, car, recommend a great surf spot. And that car says, well, here's a great swell based on your experience and takes you there. You have the time of your life. It wasn't about the surfing. It was about the autonomous vehicle taking you there. And we just captured the public's imagination. That's where Apple's going. Apple sees it. The question is, who else sees it?
So I'm actually going to cheat here a little bit. We talked about kind of making the trucking impact at the store, at the wallet. What does it mean to have a trucking impact? What would that look like to you to have that for the driver experience of everybody else on the road?
We need to play the honk game. We need to play the honk game. You think about that. Let's look at it from a public perception standpoint, from the public. So here's a mom going down the highway with her children, or a dad going down the highway with the children, or the family going down the highway with the children, and they just see it's a Torc autonomous truck. Oh, mommy, daddy, watch this, honk, honk, and they do the arm, and the truck goes honk, honk, mommy, daddy, let's do it again. Can I have your phone? Come on, daddy, mommy, this is the coolest thing in the world. Come on, I gotta do it. And all suddenly they start putting in how cool this is. That starts going viral. Now you have public adoption. Now you have public trust, because now you capture their imagination. You capture the adult's imagination with the cost savings, and you capture the children's imagination with the trucks. And I'm going to give you an example from history. So look at Ruth Handler, co-founder of Mattel, very famous now. She's in the movies Barbie. Okay, it's in the movies. Mm-hmm. The reason that Mattel became what it was, early on, Mattel became... And you look at the history of TV, you would only advertise toys around Christmas time, starting at Thanksgiving through Christmas time, because that's when you have the bulk of your sales. And so what Ruth said, no. Disney wants me to buy this 12 months and I'll tell you the show. It's a very famous show. 12 months. She said, okay, I'm going to bet on this character that's coming out with a TV show. The character was Mickey Mouse. The TV show was Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And she bought the yearly ads. First toy became the greatest success in the history of Mattel, and then because of that, it succeeded Barbie. Advertised as Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Because what Ruth did was so brilliant, she made the buying choice from the child, not the parent, because she marketed to the children, not to the parents. So that's what Torc does. You market to the children, you follow the Mattel model by playing the honk game. And then you market to the parents by playing the economic game. You win on both sides.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
You got any closing questions?
I don't.
I have one more.
Okay.
And they can cut it out later. In listening, in listening to your interview with Peter Schmidt, which it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it. I was interested how much you focused on the elevation change. Why did that stick out for you?
Try driving it. It's hard.
That's fair.
As a human driver, having done that drive out there and spent time out there, it's a hard drive.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. And I was very fortunate as a younger kid. My grandfather and I would do these things called Western trips. And we would go for 2 to 3 weeks every summer for about 6 years, 7 years, all throughout the West. Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. And we just go on these different road trips in journeys. And it was one of the things when you're a child, that certain things that you can never get out of your head. And some of these were coming down, I think it was Montana, Wyoming, we're coming down, it might have coming out of Jackson, and steep hills. And it said, runaway truck. And there's this long path with gravel and those yellow water sand buckets to stop it. And I asked my grandfather, what's that for? He goes, so sometimes the truck's brakes go out. And so they had to build these things so it doesn't hurt anybody. And it's just one of those things in life that you never forget. And so that you're very publicly driving from Albuquerque to Taos, that's a very steep incline. And for listeners that don't know, Albuquerque, it's very windy. You get those crosswinds with the balloons, and we've seen them land on the highway. You drive up to Taos, it's world-renowned skiing. That is a tough incline. And then coming down, you better have the world's best brakes, because if those brakes go out, uh-oh. And so that's where it comes from that experience of my grandfather going out west.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Grayson, we really appreciate you joining us today. This has been, I think, from my perspective, a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed getting your perspective on quite a few things in autonomy and where we're going.
Absolutely. Selfishly, we're going to use this as a pep talk for a lot of the folks internal to Torc.
Oh yeah, no. You do need to understand that, like, internally, like that 45-second clip is gonna get, like, Kylie's probably over there cheering, like, woo. So, yeah.
Thanks so much. This has been fun.
You're welcome. When I see you in Albuquerque, I'll give the pep talk in person. How's that?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so there was some kind of weird cutting blip in there. I am confident.
There'll be a way to splice it later.
There'll be a way to splice it later because it turns out that Adam and Tim, absolute podcast rookies.
Thanks for putting up with this. This has been a good experience for us, so we appreciate your time.
Grayson, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you? Like, how can they connect with you? How can they get more autonomy news and more about the index and more about the impacts that they're going to see in the future?
Sure. So if you're interested in the index on your favorite finance app, you can type in the ticker Autonomy, AUTONOMY. We're on Apple stocks. We're on Yahoo. We're on every major platform. If you happen to have a Bloomberg terminal, we're on there as well, Autonomy. And if you're interested in following my perspectives, I'm on Twitter at GBRULTE. And you can visit the Road to Autonomy website at roadtoautonomy.com.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Grayson. Welcome. Sorry about that. We are absolute amateurs.
And this has been Trucking Forward with Tim and Adam. We appreciate you listening. Please subscribe to us where you listen to your podcast, or you can look for us on torc.ai. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.